question can legitimately be raised, why does it matter? Who cares? I mean, the people there, do they care? The answer is, in Jewish tradition, there's no greater mitzvah than dealing with the needs of those who are not able to deal with their own. The mitzvah of mace mitzvah, of kavod ha-mace, of the dignity of the dead, doesn't end with a funeral. It only begins there.
This is Jeff Dalby, formerly from Riverdale. But here we are, right on Har Hazeitim, right on the Mount of Olives. I am here as an Israeli citizen, also as an American citizen, as your trustee. I am here as the advocate for 150,000 Jews who reside here on the Mount of Olives, on Har Hazeitim, to protect them, because they cannot advocate for themselves.
There isn't another place in all of Israel that contains more history than the Mount of Olives. And until we came onto the scene about 1.5 years ago, it was literally a place of disgrace. There was desecration of graves all over the place. Americans, Israelis alike, were always stoned if they went to visit their loved ones there, which is actually still going on till this day.
If such a desecration would have taken place or would take place today in Europe, we would be protesting. We would be lobbying governments. We would be demanding a change.
I can tell you that as former Minister for Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism, there was a standing order for every embassy of Israel around the world that wherever there is even a plan to desecrate or hurt a Jewish cemetery, even as a real estate rezoning plan, the Israeli embassy would protest and raise the issue vehemently with the hosting government. But unfortunately, it never happened here.
I went with many of you to take the tour to see the desecration of the graves firsthand. I hadn't done it before. I thought that perhaps we'd see the desecration of a grave or two, bad enough as it is. I hadn't really expected the mass, really destruction of many of these graves that are just fresh. It's something that's being done every single day.
And the problem was that Har Hazeitim as a site, Yoshvei Duma, is not a site of the living, and therefore those who take the helm and manage the country don't put it as their top priority.
And when I asked Nir Barkat, the mayor of this city that has great intentions to develop this city, he said, well, we gave up the idea of ruining those places because we're afraid to deal with the population there. Well, a sovereign country shouldn't be afraid from anyone.
Our committee is about respecting the history of the Jewish people. Our committee is about restoring the glory of what was. This is as Jewish as could be. There is no question about it. It is not the Ras Al-Amud. It is not a place where soccer can be played. It is not a place where mules can trample on top of graves. This is a place where respect needs to be paramount. And this is what we're trying to do.
I think one of the extremely important undertakings of recent years has been this group's decision to do something about Har Hazeitim. You go through the rows over here, you can go through 3,000 years of Jewish history.
I do not believe this is a religious issue, and it should not be a religious war. This is a war about our future, because they understand better than us that if you take away our past, you take away our future.
This is where I live. This is my walking in and out. I go to Shabbat, I go to the Kotel, I take my little girl. This is my artery. This is a place of constant problems. We are constantly facing rocks around here. What does rocks mean? Rocks are like bullets. They kill. They break your window. They get in your kid's eyes. Chas v'chalila. There they go. Opa. Good. I'm glad you're seeing this.
But this is what happens here. You cannot get to the cemetery.
We are lucky that we didn't get hurt just now. My friends, this is real life. You just saw the real life.
What just happened was that you have this group of people walking down the street here, and all of a sudden somebody threw a large rock at us. It just missed. It broke up into fragments. This is one of the fragments.
It was very ironic to just be told a few seconds before that this is the place where rocks are being thrown, and the next thing I hear a rock being hitting something.
People make light of the stoning incidents. And I admit, I read about them, I don't pay much attention to it. Until yesterday, together with Congressman Engel and Congressman Nadler and Richard Stone and a delegation, when we were there visiting the graves in Har Hazeitim, we came under rocks being thrown at us, and when you see the size of the rocks, you understand that rocks, like words, can kill.
I know in the United States, when I visit the graves of my parents and my relatives, I don't go there with fear of being stoned or fear of taking my life into my hands. And that's in New York. Why should it be different here in Jerusalem?
Fear is exactly the weapon of the enemy to divide us, to make us afraid to walk in our own graveyard, to make us afraid to live in our city. We are not afraid.
My father is buried here. My in-laws are buried here. I have friends, family. Who doesn't have people buried on Har Hazeitim? And therefore it's extremely important that we make sure that this place should be accessible at all times of day or night. We have to make sure that this is the heritage of the Jewish people.
We need to have laws like we have in 35 states that holds people accountable, increases the punishment, and even for minors, there must be punishment, and the parents must be held accountable for the children engaged in these acts. The judgment about Har Hazeitim will not be about what others did to us, but what we did or failed to do. And I think that that is the critical challenge. Moshe Rabbeinu taught us in the mitzvah of Hakel that the greatest challenges to the Jewish people are not external enemies or wars or natural disasters. It's apathy, indifference, and ignorance. Those are the three challenges we could not overcome. So first, we have to do an educational job, and I thank the committee for what they have done both here in Israel and abroad. We have to educate people about the history, about the current reality, and what can be done. So they build pressure. We have to educate members of the Knesset and elected officials because they don't know. And I can tell you that everyone that we brought it to responded immediately.
And I hope now, with this effort that has commenced in the last few months and the public awareness and attention, that there should be a clear upgrading of this site. I think it ought to be a major effort of the government as well as the municipality of Jerusalem. And I can say on behalf of many members of the Knesset, of all parties concerned, that we will support it vehemently in the Knesset as a very strong lobby to make sure that what we've seen so far we should not see, and we should see a much well and better kept site of Har Hazeitim, which is so important.
All of us represent all kinds of organizations who bring groups to Israel. I am very proud of the fact that every Hadassah mission to Israel, every group visits the Mount of Olives. It's us, each one of us, making sure that every one of the groups we know is coming, every one of the conventions, every one of the federations, wherever it is, that we come and visit.
When we see such great interest on cemeteries and graves, some of them are 3,000 years old, we know that there is no people like the Jewish people in understanding, in honoring the past, in building a future.
I hope that this effort will be the beginning, not the end. That we will all live up to the responsibilities so that future generations will look back and they will thank you and praise you for preserving their past and their future.
Please, please partner with us. This is not only a Jerusalem issue. This is not only an Israeli issue. This is an issue for the entire Jewish nation.